I've actually taken two gaps in between my career with LCC. So I think I started in 2002, and I actually worked in business support for quite a while. Then I moved into the physical disabilities teams at the time as a service coordinator, and I've worked in occupational therapy since. I worked for the council until 2015, at which point my son was born. He was quite poorly. He spent the first 6 months in hospital, and sort of coming out the back of that break in my career was more just the fact that my wife simply earned more. She was a matron in the hospitals. She earned vastly more than me, and one of us had to sort of leave to look after Noah while, before we went to school and things like that. So I returned. My intention had always been originally in that respect to return to Lincolnshire County Council, and I returned in 2019, I think the start of 2019, and I returned back to essentially what was my substantive post as a CCO in Boston. Worked for another couple of years with the team, and during that time I think it's because I'd taken such a gap in my employment. I'd essentially by this time I'd done the same job for 10 years. I'd taken a gap in my employment to look after my son, which had obviously opened my eyes to the other side of actually caring for someone, as a carer. I came back for a couple of years, and I guess it was, what do I do with my career in the time that I came back? Because obviously there were things that I wanted to achieve, but for me time was ticking on. I'm 40. I'm in my 40s now. Time's ticking on, and I got to because I only left for a few months actually, but I got to last year, and I thought, do you know what? Do I want to be doing CCO work and OT work for the rest of my life? Do I want to become an OT? So Lincolnshire County Council obviously offer the occupational therapy degree apprenticeship, and I thought long and hard about it. And at the time I thought I could put 3 years into this, or I could try and do something different, and something involving children. So in the end, after a few months sort of thinking about it, I actually left Lincolnshire County Council. I went into SEND support for children in a special educational needs school. And what was quite strange about that is within the first 2 weeks of leaving, and starting on a new career path, I'm sort of sat in the classrooms and I'm looking at the kids, and I realised that everything that I've put into practice over the last sort of 20 years, that's all I can think about. So I'm looking at a kid sat, and he's got terrible postural support, and he could do with a postural chair. He could do with something to actually help him to sit up, and that's going to enhance his well-being. It's going to make him more able, less tired. He's going to be able to actually engage in the activities. And I guess within that role that I was doing for those few months, I'm thinking, well, I could affect this, but I could affect it if I was actually in the occupational therapy teams. I could actually make a difference there if I worked in those teams that I worked in before. So I obviously contacted my manager again and asked if I could return. Thankfully I could. They allowed me back. So now that I've returned, I am sort of a lot more set on doing my OT course. You will be welcomed back with open arms, and you have that ability and opportunity to be able to expand your knowledge, expand your education, your learning. And it's like putting a slipper back on, or a comfy shoe. You're going to be welcomed back. There's not an issue with sort of coming back.